Dear cherished one, pay heed carefully if you believe in God. Say Amen. This is a highly significant message for you today. Don't disregard it. Take notice of this message. This is the voice of your God, your protector. There are instances in life that are peaceful but undeniable. Moments when your heart senses a soft tug, when a thought persistently recurs, not to burden you, but to remind you that something divine is seeking you out. This is one such moment. This message isn't here to alarm you. It's here to guide you, to draw you nearer. Not because you're in trouble, but because you matter. You are recognized, you are understood, and you are being summoned towards something more profound than what you've been navigating. Heaven communicates in tranquility, in gentle whispers of peace, and in moments like this, when the world around slows to a pace that allows your soul to finally understand. God isn't a remote entity. Jesus isn't distant. They have never abandoned your journey. They have been with you through uncertainty, through silent hours, through every instant when you didn't even know how to plead. And now they are not absent from your narrative, pleading out of urgency. They are extending with love, with patience, with a yearning for you to recall who you are. You aren't here by chance. You didn't stumble upon this message accidentally. This isn't a coincidence. This is timing, divine, intentional, and shrouded in grace. Everything that worked to bring you to this point has fulfilled its duty. Now all that remains is for you to open your heart and merely accept. What they want you to hear isn't loud. It's not harsh. It's not intended to frighten you. It's meant to ground you, to guide you back to the peaceful part of yourself that already senses a change is occurring. Something is whispering. Something is calling. Something within you is weary of fleeing. God recognizes this. Jesus empathizes with this, and they aren't disheartened. They aren't angry. They're present. They're compassionate. And they're reminding you that the path ahead doesn't necessitate perfection, only determination. Determination to listen, to slow down, to reconnect with the part of yourself that still suspects there's more to life than merely surviving. This isn't a last chance. This is an opportunity. A new invitation for pause, breathe, reconnect with who you truly are. No need to fix everything, no need to solve it all today. Just take one sincere breath and say, I'm ready to listen. That's it. That's all they ask of you. Not a show, not a pledge, just being there. For when you're present, when your heart opens, even slightly, you feel what words can't express. A gentle return to calmness. A quiet reminder that you are still cherished, still directed, still chosen. God and Jesus never cease talking. We merely get engulfed in the noise, but moments like this silence the noise. They calm the chaos. They remind you that you don't have to face it alone, that the strength you seek outside of you has always been inside, placed there by a creator who knows your name, your struggles, and your purpose. And when you finally stop to accept that truth, everything shifts. Type 222 to claim it, not because the world around you changes, but because the world within softens. In that softness, you recall that you were never abandoned. You've consistently followed a path, even amidst the silence. So treat this moment with importance, not fear, but faith. This isn't pressure. This is presence. This is your sign that heaven is close, love continues to speak, and now you're finally ready to listen. There's something sacred about slow development, the kind that goes unnoticed, yet transforms your entire life from within. The type of growth that occurs in silence, on ordinary days, during private moments where you opt for peace over panic and presence over pressure. That's the type of growth you've been experiencing. Perhaps you didn't feel prepared. Maybe. You questioned whether you were picking up any signals at all. But the truth is, you haven't missed the call. You've simply been preparing your heart to respond from a place of trust rather than fear. And now that trust is quietly, gently, and steadily settling in. God doesn't hurry what he treasures. Jesus never insists on attention. He provides presence. You haven't been overlooked or abandoned. You've been safeguarded, led, and cradled even in the seasons when it didn't seem that way. Sometimes what feels like distance is actually space. Space to breathe. Room to recuperate. Room to recall that you are not your accomplishments, not your output, not your flawlessness. You are a soul being beckoned home to itself. And that return isn't boisterous. It isn't theatrical. It's affectionate. It's gentle. It's intensely personal. The same love that called out to you before is still speaking now. Not to scold, but to greet. Not to compel, but to liberate. You may not know precisely where you're heading yet, but you know this. You don't want to return to the version of yourself that had to endure everything on your own. You're not destined to carry what shattered you. You're meant to heal past it. And healing isn't something you chase. It's something you permit. That's what this moment demands of you, to permit what's genuine to surface. To let tranquility supersede anxiety. To cease living from the wound and begin living from the insight that emerged from it. You're not the same and you're not supposed to be. That change you feel within, that's alignment. That's readiness. That's your soul saying, now I'm prepared to act with purpose. You've completed more internal work than you acknowledge. You've confronted fears in solitude. You've stood strong, stepping forward on your own in subtle ways. You've opted for peace when chaos seemed simpler. Those instances are significant. They were your pivotal moments, even if nobody witnessed them. And due to that peaceful labor, things are starting to fall into place. Life isn't asking you to run a race. It's urging you to walk with mindfulness, with purpose, with the kind of steady confidence that doesn't stem from external influences but from inner peace. So make your next move, not because you're compelled to, but because you're ready to. This isn't about rushing into something. It's about understanding you've already reached the stage where your heart can accommodate what your spirit has been yearning for. This message isn't the end of something. It's the beginning of your self-awareness. Type God is good if you love God. You've been sensing the call all along. And now, at last, you're tranquil enough to respond without fear. That is perfect timing. That is grace in action. There arrives a point in every journey when the struggle ceases. Not because you've surrendered, but because you've finally grasped that you don't need to pursue what's already finding its way to you. You start to perceive the change when your heart no longer jumps at stress or anxiety, breathes deeply at the presence of tranquility. You no longer feel pulled towards what depletes you. You no longer argue with reality. You begin to trust that what is destined for your soul knows where you reside, and it doesn't demand racket or exhaustion to find you. That kind of surrender isn't weakness. It's wisdom. It's strength that no longer needs to be allowed to feel authentic. It's a type of faith that moves without requiring constant evidence. You've tried to make everything function before. The timing, the schemes, the routes that didn't seem quite right but looked good on the surface. And even then, something inside you whispered that there was more. Not more as in possessions or achievement, but more as in depth, serenity, clarity. Now, for the first time in a long while, you're not seeking signs externally. You're tuning internally. That's why you experience a sense of peace, even if you can't articulate it. That's why. Certain things no longer provoke the same response they once did. You're not fleeing anything. You're just no longer opting for struggle over relaxation. You've evolved beyond craving the world's haste. And in that space, heaven becomes clearer to hear. The presence of God and the peace of Jesus seldom intrude with noise. They await your attention. They await your receptiveness, not because they're distant, but because love never compels entry. Love always waits for a willing mind. Now, your mind is no longer trying to prove anything. It's just ready to accept. That's what they've been waiting for, not your perfection, not your accomplishments, just your receptiveness. This whole time they've been surrounding you, guiding, protecting, speaking truth into your weary soul. And now that the noise has subsided, their voice is resurfacing again, not to overwhelm your life, but to subtly guide it. You are not misplaced. You are not shattered. You are in transition, and transitions seem confusing only when we hurry them up. But you've stopped hurrying. You've stopped trying to fix everything immediately. You've begun trusting that you're precisely where you should be. Not because everything is clear, but because your heart feels lighter, your breath feels deeper, and your path finally feels like home. That's not just emotional progress. That's spiritual alignment. And once you step into that space, you stop wondering when things will align. You start embracing the present moment. Sense of being content. This period isn't about grand actions. It's about subtle, significant changes. It's about inner calm spreading outward. It's about picking peace even when challenges arise. It's about walking steadily but deliberately towards what feels right, not what attracts attention. And the lovely aspect is heaven always acknowledges that type of gentle surrender. You might not notice it immediately, but everything being arranged for you behind the scenes is falling into place because you've made space. You've opted for trust over anxiety, elegance over shame, presence over proof. Now you're not pursuing your purpose. You're embodying it gently, wholly, peacefully. Type 1111 if you love God, Jesus. You may not always sense it, but there's something guiding you far beyond what your sight can reach. A constant companion that doesn't rush you, doesn't pressure you, and never deserts you. Not even when faith seems insufficient. That companion is love. That companion is grace. That companion is the steady guidance of God and the peace of Jesus accompanying you. Not in spectacular ways, but in quiet ones, not to impress you, but to remind you that life doesn't need to be loud to hold deep significance. That miracles aren't extraordinary, they're ordinary, hidden within the everyday, always noticeable. Sometimes they're just evidence of surviving a period you didn't anticipate. Imperfection doesn't mean lack of protection. Uncertainty doesn't equate to absence of tranquility. Simply existing, still breathing, still evolving, still striving for something profound, demonstrates that the strength within you outweighs the burden you carry. Heaven never required performance. Heaven merely asked for pauses long enough to understand self-covering. Not due to actions, but because of identity, because you were planned, because your heart retains worth even on exhausting days. You don't need to possess the entire future. You just need to grasp the present moment. Peace is accessible now without prerequisites. That's divine love's gift. Not demands, not pressure, merely presence. And when you truly embrace this, something within softens. You stop obsessing over the next move. You stop fretting about being sufficient. And you begin to trust that if you simply be, everything will unfold as it should. You were destined to be nowhere else if you were. But you're here. And that implies this moment holds something for you, even if it's just rest, even if it's just a breath, even if it's just acknowledging you're not as far behind as you believe you are. You are not waiting for something to start. You are in the thick of it now. You are in the heart of subtle change, gradual healing, profound relief. And though it seems insignificant on the surface, everything is evolving. You are not stagnant, you're blossoming. You are not delayed, you're being purified. And within this divine timing, nothing is squandered. Not the tears, not the waiting, not the quiet nights of doubt about your journey. All of it is being sown into something more robust, tenderer, and more attuned to who you truly are. God and Jesus don't need you to be louder. They simply want you to be truthful with yourself, with your healing, with your aspirations. They aren't seeking perfection. They're providing peace. Peace that doesn't always alter the circumstances, but always alters the way you traverse them. Peace that murmurs, you're not ignored, you're not lost, you're on course. Where you should be, and I'm here with you. That's the message they continually send, not to frighten you, but to comfort you. Not to demand immediate attention, but to remind you that you are already securely held even when you don't sense it. So breathe a bit more relaxed. Rest a little deeper. Trust that nothing sacred ever vanishes without a reason. And nothing destined for you will ever force you to lose yourself just to keep it. What's unfolding now may be tranquil, but it's authentic. And it's guiding you precisely where you're intended to go. There's a moment in every journey where everything slows down. Not because you've lost energy, but because you're being asked to observe what you usually hurry past. The silence you're experiencing isn't failure. The calmness you're feeling isn't void. Type 777 if you believe in God, Jesus. It's space. Space that's being created within you, around you, and through you so that something new, something genuine can grow. We frequently believe progress means movement, activity, tangible outcomes. But some of the most significant transformations occur not when we move, but when we become still enough to accept what was always meant for us. This part of your journey is not about mending, demonstrating, or nudging. It's about accepting, permitting, and trusting. You might not know what comes next, and that's fine. You don't need a map when connected to the one who sees the entire journey. God isn't asking you to solve everything. Jesus isn't expecting you to plan every step. They are offering you peace for this moment. This very moment they're offering you assurance that even in uncertainty, you are not alone. Even in silence, something is happening. Even in transition spaces where the old has gone but the new hasn't fully arrived, you are not being ignored, you are being aligned. And that alignment can't be hurried. It must be felt, trusted, and embraced with patience. Sometimes the greatest gift isn't a swift solution. It's the gradual rekindling of faith, the kind that rises softly after setbacks, after loss, after long nights where you whispered hopes and wondered if they were heard. And they were every time. Not a single whisper was ignored. You're not here by accident. You're not reading this because you're lost. You're here because your spirit has arrived at the point where it's ready to grow. Open enough to listen to truth without requiring a crisis to spark it. That's a sign of resilience. That's what emotional maturity demonstrates. Moving from fear into trust, from response into reaction, from trying to manage to opting to yield. You've remained faithful even when you didn't feel powerful. You've stayed tender in a world that continually toughens hearts. You've continued to appear, not because it was simple, but because something within you trusted more. That more isn't external. It's already inside. It's been growing slowly, preparing attentively, waiting calmly for your heart to quiet. Enough to perceive it. And now you're starting to observe it, not in grand, noisy instances, but in small, subtle signs. More tranquility in your mornings, more serenity in your thoughts, more relaxation in your breath. These are not trivial matters. These are indicators. Something is settling, something is changing. You don't need to pursue it. You don't need to hurry ahead. Just stay with this moment. Let it perform its function within you. Let grace accomplish what striving could never achieve. This isn't a break. This is preparation. This isn't the end. This is the gentle beginning of something new, holy, something that feels like a familiar sanctuary, something that doesn't require anything from you except sincerity. And your sincerity, your readiness to acknowledge you're ready for tranquility, is what opens the next chapter. You're not late. You're not misplaced. You're exactly where divine guidance can be heard most clearly. And it's whispering, you're secure now, you're cherished here, and you're finally ready to accept what's been waiting for you all along. You no longer need loud affirmations to know you're on the correct path. That quiet contentment in your soul, that's the sign. You've stopped seeking clarity from outside and started trusting the serenity within. That's not weakness, it's wisdom. You've matured through silence, through submission, through the gradual shedding of everything you no longer require. Now your presence resonates louder than explanations. You're not proving anymore. You're simply walking in authenticity. This isn't about grand actions. It's about small, steadfast strides. It's about trusting that you're not behind, not isolated, and not astray. You're evolving into what you've been pursuing: peace, understanding, and alignment. Quietly, persistently, already sufficient. You don't have to hunt so tirelessly anymore. What's destined for you isn't fleeing from you. It's preparing to greet you in your calm, not in your turmoil, mayhem. Your tranquility is transforming into a space where things coalesce. You're not being tested, you're being entrusted. Entrusted to decelerate, entrusted to relinquish, entrusted to receive without the need to manage. That's what harmony feels like. Not boisterous, not urgent, but consistent and authentic. So ease up. Breathe deeply. Let life evolve without feeling the urge to pursue it. You're not lagging, you're right on schedule. And everything genuine is already finding its way to you. You aren't late. You aren't lagging. Every delay, every detour, every quiet moment has been sculpting something within you. Not just for what's next, but for who you're becoming. The waiting wasn't wasted. It taught you patience. It provided you with wisdom. It helped you let go of what wasn't meant to linger. Now, without even knowing it, you're more ready than ever. Not because you have every solution, but because you've learned how to trust the course. And that's enough. You're prepared not for perfection, but for peace, for purpose, for what was always intended for you, arriving now in divine time. If you believe in God, say Amen. Subscribe for more videos. Thanks for watching this God message. May God, Jesus, will grant you abundance in every aspect of your life. Type 222 if you agree.